Morehouse alumni and your families, it's my pleasure to welcome you back to this campus, to the Hilltop. We have not had an in-person reunion now for over 2 years, so we're excited to have you with us. We're also excited that you'll join us for commencement. It will be an amazing moment. It's important for me because this will be the first class that I have been with for all 4 of their years as they journeyed through Morehouse College. They are leaving well prepared and with amazing opportunities to go and continue to do what Morehouse men have done for 155 years, make a difference in the world. The college has grown in many ways since we entered the pandemic 2.5 years ago. We've raised over $200 million toward a $500 million capital campaign, which we will be asking each of you to contribute to, and to contribute in a way that recognizes your gratitude for the opportunities that Morehouse gave you. You'll also walk around campus during your time here, this reunion, and see that we've begun in many ways to redevelop our campus. If you walk over to our athletic field, you'll see that a new track and field have been put in place this year. So we'll start next year's season with a world-class set of athletic facilities in our track and field. Also, you'll see that we are at the final stages of renovating the Martin Luther King International Chapel. These have both been projects that have been important to me in my time here. As I remember when I first came to campus, I realized that our students needed world-class facilities. As part of our capital campaign, we also plan to continue to develop our facilities, in particular, developing new student housing as well as a new student center. We've garnered grants to expand our ability to reach the world. We will have a new Center for Black Male Research focused on the most challenging issues and opportunities to enhance the experience of the development of Black men in the world. We are also in this season experiencing the largest influx of applications for Morehouse College in our history. And we're expecting to register this year a record-sized class. In addition, we've created the first online degree program, globally accessible, offered by a historically Black college and university, while maintaining our focus on being exclusively a male college. All of these exciting developments have been made possible because of the support that our alumni have given us over these last 4.5 years since I have been the president of Morehouse College. I look forward to engaging you as you journey the campus this weekend. And I also am especially happy that many of you, if not all of you, will be with us on commencement. So have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you around Morehouse.
we at, house? Where we at? Stand up, stand up. Let's go, Morehouse. Let's go.
I'm leaving Abidjan to take a straight flight from Ivory Coast to Paris and from Paris to Atlanta. When you leave your city to go to a different city within the country, it's a different feeling, right? When you leave your country to go to a different country within the same continent, it's a different feeling. But when you leave your continent to go to a different continent, it's a different feeling. When I graduated from Ivory Coast, I moved to South Africa. And I went to a school called the African Leadership Academy. I left the African Leadership Academy to attend the African American Leadership Academy, which is Morehouse. I can't even describe or explain how I was feeling because I was on a mission. I really felt like I had a commitment to everyone I left back home. I had a commitment to my community, to my parents, and I had a responsibility to do something where I was going. My success is the success of my community. My failure is the failure of the community. I just can't believe that it's happening now and this is the first step. And the journey is just starting now.
My name is Daxton Pettis.
My name is Reginald Timothy Pettis.
My name is Terrence Miles.
My name is Paul Fuller.
I graduated from Morehouse in 1992.
I'm a graduate of the class of 1992.
I graduated from Morehouse in 1991.
I came into Morehouse fall of 2021. Personally, I felt like I was already a part of the Morehouse family. I am blessed to not only have one Morehouse man to look up to, but three. My uncle Terry, my uncle Paul, and my dad. Being a part of that Morehouse family, I felt already indoctrinated into the school. I've talked about leadership and had conversations about development far before I came into high school.
Morehouse is important because there's no place on earth where you can group black men together, get educated, and then send leaders out into the world.
All of my best friends are Morehouse brothers. So we all stayed very close. Some of my business associates are Morehouse brothers. And then I give back to Morehouse financially. I support Morehouse every year.
I really believe we can elevate the goals really high and help this school achieve those goals, if not exceed those goals.
I have recognized that the people around me aspire to be great and have the potential to be great. And Morehouse is the school that's refining them to do what they want to do. People should invest in Morehouse because there's no other place that you can receive this type of education. I am the son of Tim Pettis. I am the nephew of Paul Fuller. I am the godson of Terry Miles. Morehouse is the only place in the world that you can get this experience of black men coming together to be educated and to go on and become leaders.
The name of our capital campaign is Making Men of Consequence. We translated that into 4 pillars. First, rising men of Morehouse, bringing Morehouse to the point that we can be a need-blind institution, that we can make Morehouse a place where no young man decides not to attend Morehouse, who we admit and who believes that this is the perfect place for them to be at this point in their development.
Welcome to the house.
we at, house? Where we at? Stand up, stand up. Let's go, Morehouse. Let's go.
I have always believed in the American dream. Since I started my company over 50 years ago, I considered it our greatest responsibility to understand, be inspired by, and aspire to the dreams of all those who call this country home. When I was approached with the idea of a collection inspired by the heritage and traditions of the timeless dressing of historically black colleges and universities, it became clear that part of our design sensibility has been missing. This special collaboration with the students, the faculty, and alumni of Morehouse and Spelman colleges, two esteemed institutions attended by our own employees, extends the authenticity of our brand heritage, writing untold chapters in our storytelling. Our portrait of American style and our vision of the American dream would be incomplete without Black experiences like these. I'm so honored to be part of it.
The significance of the Black aesthetic at HBCUs from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s has a lot to do with self-determination, which is one of the main reasons that so many of us choose to attend HBCUs and to educate our children at HBCUs.
One of the things I'd like to say about the significance of Ralph Lauren, seeing us and seeing what our institutions produce, recognizing that for hundreds of years, and for certainly decades, there was an identity placed at majority Ivy schools that people didn't realize were happening at other places.
Howard Thurman, who arrived as a freshman in 1919, said that when he went to chapel for the first time, Dr. Hope was the speaker. He arrived at the podium, and his first words were, "Young gentlemen." Howard Thurman said the words were startling and literally stabbed the student body with an awareness that they had just been affirmed in a way that was not common. Taking that in, on this little island called Morehouse, Thurman said it poured iron into their spines, and they felt like they were somebody in a way that they had not previous to arriving on campus.
So at Spelman, when we greet our first year students, we say, look to your left, look to your right. Make sure that the person on your left and the person on your right is with you 4 years from now. So you come to Spelman and we know that you're going to be ambitious for yourself. We expect that. But we also expect you to be ambitious for each other. And so the Spelman sisterhood is more than just a social notion. It really is core to the values of what we believe our students will take with them when they graduate from here. And that is to understand they have an education for themselves, but they also have a responsibility to a larger community.
Historically Black colleges and universities provide the kind of cultural awareness that many students don't get before they come to college. We expect our students to leave here and not only do what they are specifically prepared to do, but also to become leaders in the community, the nation, as well as the world.
My mother is also a graduate of Spelman College, so my first entry point into this community was her. My father is a graduate of Morehouse College, so being a Spellhouse couple, it's sort of in my blood to love and respect not just Spelman and Morehouse, but HBCUs in general.
One of the things that encouraged the learning, that motivated the students to understand what being on the campus was supposed to do for them, was related to this affirmation they got of their character, of their self-esteem. And probably all historically Black colleges should be valued for the significance of what the faculty and the administration transmitted to the students about their personhood, so they could believe in themselves. It was an understanding very different from what the larger culture was saying about them.
Students at my school have to wear a uniform every day. And I hope that when they leave from Drew, I want them to leave knowing that they are worthy. And I think for me, I know for me, that was probably the most profound message that I left Spelman College with. I went straight from Spelman College to graduate school, and I just knew who I was. I was confident in who I was. I recognized and appreciated my voice, and I had no problem saying to someone that I didn't agree with something, or have you thought about it this way, or here's another perspective.
The women who came here were women who were not satisfied with the status quo. They wanted change. They wanted to become the doctors and the lawyers and the teachers who were going to win that full citizenship for their people. And that is also still true of Spelman College and all historically Black colleges.
You can see, especially in the historically Black colleges and universities, you see periods where there was great emphasis on dress, being clean, pressed down and starched. One quick example that comes to my consciousness is that Martin King had a nickname when he was at Morehouse, Martin King Jr. They called him Tweety because he was known for giving special attention to what he wore. His shoes were always shined. And that was an emphasis at Morehouse.
What this new collection visualizes to me as an art historian, it's really a return to our roots. These are clothes that are inspired by a time in the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, when Spelman and Morehouse were in their heyday, when, celebrated graduates in the history of the United States and the history of the world were attending our colleges, and when fashion and style were very much a part of our traditions.
It captures a period when Morehouse was speaking to the world about the future that we were creating, projecting where this people will go and take the world with them, which is to a better and more inclusive embracing of our humanity as a global citizenry, right? To me, that's been the part of the arc of the moral universe that Morehouse has helped to bend.
The 5 wells emerged as the explanation of a larger definition of the Morehouse man for me. The 5 wells are to be well-read, well-spoken, well-traveled, well-dressed, and well-balanced. I understood and intended well-dressed to be one component of what it meant to be and what it means to be a Renaissance man with social conscience and global perspective. The people who marched during the Civil Rights Movement, they put on their Sunday best, I think, as a way of saying, whether you respect us or not, no matter what you call us throughout the week, we demand respect. And our dressing up is an act of resistance to common stereotypes that devalue Black bodies and African American dignity.
And all the photographs always picture the students, very dignified, very serious, not smiling. And that was to contradict the Eurocentric stereotypes about scratching where you don't itch and shucking and jiving, not being serious. Because the situation wasn't funny.
Well, the yearbook for class of 1925-26, really it's the second year that a yearbook was made for Morehouse College. And this particular book is special because it was handed to me by a graduate at the time who indicated that there weren't a lot of these yearbooks made. The pictures and the kinds of stories that are told in here, the first traditions of the college are captured in these yearbooks.
The first picture I saw was my Spelman sisters sitting on the steps of Sisters Chapel, and it just brought back memories of Founders Day, where we got a convocation and just going inside of Sisters Chapel each time. You just get just a feeling of just sisterhood, being at home.
And looking at it, it's amazing. I mean, to see, in many respects, yourself, to see yourself as a student, to see yourself as a faculty member, to see yourself as, intimately connected to the Black diaspora is just, it just fills you up. So it's special. They need to keep this under lock and key for guys like me.
Seeing all these beautiful Black women in their white, which is a tradition that has continued forward to today. Being a Spelman College student, I remember being a first year, being inducted into this community and being asked to wear a white dress. So as I'm looking through, I love to see that the tradition is carrying forward today, but we're still hearkening back to what the founders of Spelman College had in mind and what the women who were first admitted into our school were wearing and feeling most beautiful in.
I love the days when we wear the white attire. It started as a very practical tradition because white cotton was the simplest fabric to be able to produce and to make objects fun. You didn't have to dye it because dyeing was another process and dyeing was more expensive. So it was a simple, straightforward way to create something that was elegant and lovely. By the 20s and 30s, it had become a tradition, and it became synonymous with this sense of respectability and polish, which was very much a part of the aesthetics of historically Black colleges and universities. Nowadays, I like to think of white attire, and it's called attire. So it means not only dresses, but also pants and pantsuits. I think of it as a symbol of solidarity. That we're all going to dress in a way that expresses to the world that we are sisters, we are connected. We do have this responsibility for each other. And so it's really one of my favorite traditions because when I see the Spelman students arrayed in their white attire, they all look so gloriously radiant.
This is really a remarkable text that emerged at a time of African American aspiration. And what I see are photographs of leaders, of future leaders of the community and of the nation And it's really just remarkable. I mean, the organizations, the fraternities, other social groups. And it's also striking to me, this occurred at a time when the Harlem Renaissance was unfolding, when some of the most brilliant writers and thinkers and scientists and poets were on the scene. And the young people captured here are really aspiring to walk in those footsteps. And so they have a certain presentation of self that is just inspiring as I look at this and as I think about all the remarkable things happening at Morehouse College during those years and indeed in all HBCUs. So I am humbled, I am inspired, and really hopeful for the future as I think about how far we've come and the achievements of the young people depicted here.
So I'm allowed to open this right now.
Go back and say this.
No, I'm genuinely just shocked. This is truly amazing. And the fact that this is from 1925, which the history that must be encompassed in this book is just unreal. And I'm extremely honored to be allowed to even touch it. So thank you. I'm definitely glad I chose this school. A little overwhelmed. I mean, 1925 is a very long time ago, and just to think how far we've come as a school and as a people since 1925. I mean, in 1925, we couldn't vote. And today, in my lifetime, I've seen a black president be elected and reelected, and then a woman vice president who also went to an HBCU. It's truly amazing.
And when I look at this notion of a politics of respectability that Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham coined in her seminal study, when I look at the notion of clothing and how style and fashion really matters here at the Atlanta University Center, I think some of it begins with a figure like W.B. Du Bois, whom we know starts teaching at Atlanta University right around the turn of the 20th century. And it's he who, by 1900, proposes an exhibition, A Small Nation of People, for the Paris Exposition. And this exhibition includes a number of photographs that he commissioned of a man named Thomas Askew, who was a Georgia-based photographer. Beautiful portraits of African Americans from Georgia, very, very finely dressed.
I believe there's a great value in Ralph Lauren doing an expose of the creative aesthetic of Spelman and Morehouse, particularly with regard to attire.
So as I was watching the men being staged for a scene, it was as if I was looking back at the same image created by Askew. The way that the men across generations looked at each other. It was as if a story was being told.
For me, the significance of this collection is layered. For me as a professor, I get excited about the idea of my students seeing themselves represented so elegantly and appropriately. I don't want to quite say that it validates, because we are already validated. We understand that Black genius and Black brilliance has been about since Black folk. But to have that cosign, to have that visibility within a very American popular space is something that I take great pride in being able to share with my boys. For my boys to be able to say, my dad's a professor at this college is just really cool.
This Ralph Lauren line, representing Spelman College, means everything. I grew up wearing Ralph Lauren, so to be a part of something so special in this collection, honoring Spelman College and what it means to really all of the Spelman women, just to be recognized.
I love the way that Professor David Wall Rice introduces this notion of well-dressed as a part of an improvisational performance of dignity, of power, of self-efficacy. And Professor Rice also links this notion to Du Bois's profound trope about double consciousness. as he writes in the 1903 classic, The Souls of Black Folk, one ever feels his two-ness, part of an American culture, part of an African culture, and bringing these two in a kind of interesting creative tension, ever striving for something better.
It was powerful in that moment to be in Sale Hall, understanding that that hall was built in 1910. Sitting at that desk, you could feel the power of a Brazil saying, young man, you are ready to take on this. It was a powerful moment to be in there with some who were freshmen, class of 2025, and they were in a room that was built in 1910. How do you put that into words? It was powerful. It was powerful.
And then participating in the scene where there were Spelman students and recent graduates, all of us were in a room together. You had a past alum of an older generation in the room, a former Miss Maroon and White. It was so moving because it was this cross-generational discussion about how you have these women that were part of a tradition where their mothers and grandmothers attended Spelman.
Yeah, you know, I think the thing that really can't be understated is the significance of Ralph Lauren trusting and investing in James Jeter's vision. You know, to have been a part of this was neat and cool, but it also is historical in terms of a young man getting to himself be recognized allows the broader swatch of us as Americans to be recognized. And I think that recognition, it can't be emphasized enough. I really appreciate and feel good about being a part of this because of how it is that folks have come together to support this young Black man in making the world better by having a complication and a dimensionality that's added to who and how Black folk are and how and who they are in good, positive spaces that we know have existed, but that other people need to recognize more frequently and more robustly.
There is something of a paradox functioning when any institution outside of Spelman and Morehouse wishes to give an account of the experiences of the underclass of this country's history. And the paradox is this: how do you demonstrate the brilliance and the vibrancy of its culture and at the same time tell why they had to do it? This is fundamentally grounded in a history of suppression, oppression, and the idea that what emerges from there could be something you might call beautiful, that you might say it has value. And that's what it means for us to present ourselves in the world a particular way, linguistically, aesthetically. And so the responsibility is, how do we tell a story, even if it's merely through pictures, of how it is that these people have crafted and created something of value in the presence of suffering and oppression. But the difficulty is, how do you give an account of why I was forced to create a sense of value under these structures that became the very strictures that you respond to?
You know, the reason historically Black colleges and universities came into existence in the first place is that we had 4 million emancipated slaves who had to be educated, who were forming into their families, building their communities, becoming citizens of this country for the first time, full citizens. And very little thought had been given to how they were going to be educated. And so with the birth of historically Black colleges and universities in the 19th century, that was the opportunity for us to begin to educate our leaders. And by the 20s and 30s and 40s, Black colleges were producing the Black middle class in this country. They were producing the doctors, the lawyers, the teachers, These were the leaders who were going to go back out into their communities and build those communities. And they did. And it was extraordinary. You look at places like Tulsa, Oklahoma. You look at places like Memphis, like Harlem, like Chicago. I mean, all these urban centers during the Great Migration benefited because of the talent that was coming out of Black colleges and universities, and also creating the kind of leadership that would become so politically essential for us to ultimately win all the rights that we deserved as citizens.
I think that the notion of the talented 10th has been central to so much of HBC culture, certainly at Morehouse, where this idea was actually first cultivated among some of the leaders and elders, Henry Morehouse and Morehouse's first Black president, John Hope, and then of course Du Bois was a part of that conversation, and the Niagara movement that led to the NAACP in 1909. All of them were thinking of how do we cultivate a tiny set of committed leaders who can then go out to inspire others, to make others in their image, and to expand the power of our unity. The talented 10th was not just about celebrating the best and brightest. That's a kind of elite notion rooted in Enlightenment and much of Eurocentric higher education. Our understanding of talented 10th was think about the 90th that you are called to serve. And as Benjamin Mays once put it, I'm challenging you who are a part of this Morehouse graduating class. You are the talented 10th. In 10 years, I'm gonna ask you, where are your 90? Where are the people, the ordinary people, the working people, the oppressed people whom you have served and helped and lifted? So I think it's important to keep those notions in mind. Otherwise, talented 10th becomes unhinged, unanchored, and disconnected from the masses we're called to serve. And that's what Maynard Jackson and Martin King and Howard Thurman and Julian Bond were all about. Remember the 90. And I ask you, where are your 90? Those you are called to serve and lift.
Where we at, House? Where we at? Stand up, stand up. Let's go, Morehouse. Let's go.